Hello and welcome to part 7 of this tutorial on how to create a full-stack website using MongoDB, Express, React, and Node. In this part, we'll continue working on Redux state management. We'll create our user constants, reducers, and actions. And we'll start working on our blog state as well. So let's get started. In the store constants folder, create a user constants.js file. We'll start off by exporting our first constant, which will be user underscore login underscore request, and we set that to the string version. Redux dispatch types have to be strings, but it's common practice to create constants to represent them. We need 3 more, so copy that down. The second constant will be user underscore login underscore success. The third will be user login fail, and the fourth will be user logout. I'll copy these 4 constants. Now in our reducers folder, create a user reducers.js file. Import those constants. Now to create our first reducer, export a constant named user login reducer and then set it to some parentheses. We'll pass in state as the first param and set that equal to an empty object, then pass in action. Make that an arrow function, and inside of the function body create a switch statement. In the parentheses, pass in action.type, open up some braces, and the first case will be user underscore login underscore request. User login request will return an object where we set loading to true. Create another case. This will be user login success. We'll return an object and set loading to false, and user info to action.payload. So once we request a login, loading will be set to true, and if it's successful, loading will be set to false, and user info will hold the information sent in the payload. The next case will be user login fail. It will return an object where we set loading to false and set error to action.payload. Add a case for user logout, and that will return an empty object. For the default case, we'll return state. Now we're done with the user login reducer, and it's already exported. So inside of our index.js file in the reducers folder, we need to import our reducer. And inside of the combine reducers function, I'll set user login to user login reducer. We're renaming it to make it a little cleaner. Now back in our user reducers file, copy the imported constants, create a user actions.js file inside of our actions folder, paste in the copied import. Now export a constant called login and set that to some parentheses. Pass in email and password. We need to make a double arrow function because we need to use dispatch here. So add an arrow, point that to async, and open up another set of parentheses. Pass in dispatch. Create another arrow and open up some curly braces. Create a try catch block. Inside the try, we'll dispatch an object where we set the type to user login request. Create a config constant and set that to an object. Here we'll define our headers. So inside another object, set the content type to application/JSON. Now below config, we want to send our request to the backend. We'll get some data back from our Axios request, so we'll destructure data by wrapping it in braces. Set data to await Axios.post. The first param will be the route we're trying to hit with a post request. So /API/user/login. The second will be an object containing the email and password sent with this request. The third will be our config constant with the content type. After the post request, dispatch an object where we set the type to user login success and the payload to our data constant. Now we're logged in, so we need to save our user info to local storage. So call local storage.set item. The first param will be a string with user info. And for the second, we'll call json.stringify and pass in our data constant. So we're setting user info to the data we got back from our post request. Inside of the catch block, dispatch a type of user login fail. And for the payload, we want to check if we have an error.response and an error.response.data.message. If we do, with a ternary check, we'll set payload to error.response.data.message. Else, we set it to the error.message. We're done with the login action, so create a logout constant, set it to a double arrow function with dispatch in the second set of parentheses. Inside the function body, call local storage.removeItem and pass in a string of user info. Then dispatch a type of user logout. We're done with our user constants, reducers, and actions for now, so we'll move on to our blog. In our constants folder, create a blog constants.js file. I'll export a constant called getBlogsRequest and set that to its string version. Copy that down twice, then rename the second constant to getBlogsSuccess and the third to getBlogsFail. Copy and paste those constants down below. Highlight the word get. Do the same with those 6 references by pressing Ctrl-D a few times and rename them to create. So now we have constants for create blogs request, success, and fail. Copy down one of these and rename it to create blog reset. I'll show you why we need the reset constant later on. We're only creating one blog at a time, so get rid of the S making these constants plural. Copy the first set of constants down again. Then highlight the first 2 words and rename them to blog_details. Paste in another set of constants and rename the first 2 words to update blog. We also need an update blog reset. Create another set of constants. These will be delete blog request, success, and fail. And finally, we're done creating our blog constants. Now inside our reducers folder, create a blog reducers.js file. import an object from our blog constants file, then copy all our blog constants, and paste them into our import. Export a blog list to reducer constant. Open up some parentheses. For the first param, point state to an object where we'll set blogs to an empty array. The second param will be action. Create the arrow and open up some braces. In the function body, create a switch statement. In the parentheses, we'll switch based off our action.type. The first case will be get underscore blogs underscore request. We'll return an object where we set loading to true and blogs to an empty array. The next will be get underscore blogs underscore success. And we'll return an object where we set loading to false. Set blogs to action.payload.blogs. Pages to action.payload.pages. And page to action.payload.page. Remember, we created those constants earlier so we can control how many posts are shown per page. Set the next case to get underscore blogs underscore fail. Then return an object where we set loading to false and error to action.payload. For the default, return state. And that's it for this video. In the next, we'll continue working on our blog state. Thanks for watching.